Welcome to Built-In Boots, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes at the DDS Companies, where we're laying the foundation for tomorrow's infrastructure. Join us as we explore the real stories of the people who make it all happen, uncover the lessons they've learned, and show you how to build a rewarding career in the utility construction industry. If you're ready to learn from those who built their success from the ground up, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to the Built-In Boots podcast. I'm Jordan. I'm here today with Mr. Mark Payne, my co-host for the Built-In Boots podcast. You're going to want to listen to this one. This is with Mr. Mike Fallat, the president of the DDS Companies. Mark, I think we had a good conversation here.
I think we had a great conversation. This is going to be probably one of the longer episodes.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it goes when we sit down with Mike. We 5 minutes, an hour, whatever.
Yeah.
We usually have a really good conversation and we kind of get lost in it and kind of get carried away. This one was really special though. This conversation was post Leadership Summit. We were talking back on, we were reflecting back on the Leadership Summit, talking to some of the things that we were trying to accomplish. And really it talks a little bit about like our core values, our vision, our mission, and what the future looks like for us. And this episode right now, or right here, I think is one of the more important ones that we did.
Yeah.
And getting some time with Mike is always good.
Absolutely.
And I think that that helps us out a lot.
Without further ado, go ahead and take a listen. Hey guys, welcome to the Built-In Boots podcast. My name is Jordan, and I'm here today with my good friend, Mark Payne. How's it going,
what's
dude?
up, brother? How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing real good.
Awesome.
Good to have you here today. Actually, I drove to you, so.
Yeah, it's great to have you here today, for sure.
Well, thanks for having me here. Love coming out to Rochester. It's always a good day.
Heck yeah.
So we're here today with Mr. Mike Fallat. We are going to do a quick recap of the first inaugural 2024 Foreman Leadership Summit. This was a summit that was a mastermind of, I believe, Mr. Fallat and you, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong here. Really, we wanted to kind of come back, circle back. That summit happened 3 months ago. And really, we just wanted to go back and have a discussion about what were some of our takeaways, what were some of the things that we think went right, maybe what went wrong, and let's look to the future a little bit and just talk about it.
The summit, it feels like it's a very long time ago. However, it's definitely close as well. It's just kind of weird how quickly time has went this spring. No, I think that's great. The summit itself, I feel overall was a success, and I think Mike probably has a lot to say about that as well. We did something that was kind of outside the box, I think. I think that, bring in half of the field leadership in a week at a time and having those folks in here and in front of us, that was amazing. And having the mix of people in front of us, that was huge. Mm-hmm.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
So, Mike, welcome to the podcast. This is your first time sitting in with us. So thanks for.
I'm here listening. Watching you guys.
Thanks for joining us.
We've been trying to put this together for God, it feels like months, probably more like weeks, but appreciate you guys having me on. I'm excited for the conversation. Excited to see where it goes. But yeah, we got a lot of good things in the hopper. Excited to talk more about them and express some gratitude to all the good things that we do and just talk about where we're headed.
That sounds great. Selfishly, I'm going to ask the first question here. So between the both of you, maybe Mike, if you want to lead this up, Foreman Leadership Summit. I'm not sure if there's other companies out there doing that type of thing or not, but for me, it was my first time ever hearing of such a thing and first time ever attending it. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if it was necessarily geared towards foremen necessarily, but leadership. I would say your local leadership. Can we just give a quick highlight of what that is and why?
Yeah, it started, and feel free to jump in, but it started as a Foreman Leadership Summit concept when we were in Houston for a conference through BuildWit. And Mark and I had the idea of bringing in all the foremen and kind of level setting on many different topics, and with a little bit of help from a pen and a napkin, extrapolated that into a much deeper conversation and discussion and really event beyond just foremen.
I think all good things started on a napkin somewhere.
I think so. I really do.
Yep, somewhere in the Texas heat. So we went deeper than that because we wanted to, and we felt that it was important for not just the foremen, but their crew leads that are also very, very close to the work to all be on the same page and really give them a forum to express things that we can change, that we can get better at, that some soft spots that we can have so senior management and middle management can focus in those areas. And one thing that we've always believed that we continue to say is if you're in the middle somewhere standing still, you're getting worse. And there's two ways to go in this business. You're either getting better or getting worse. And if you're standing still, you're getting worse because someone else is getting better. So it was really important to us to hear from everybody that's close to the work, that's actually shovel in the ground, boots getting dirty, on where we can improve and where we can spend more time and more focus on areas to get better as a company. So it was really impactful for me. We left with several action items that we can touch on today, that we're going to touch on at a much deeper level with that same group in the next few weeks here. But it was super impactful just to hear some focus areas and some steering for us as managers on where we can spend our time more effectively with the workforce.
So the way we did it was we split it up into 2 sessions. Mark, do you know off the top of your head about how many people hit each?
We actually grew. The first blush, we were looking at somewhere around 50 to 60 people total, and before we were all said and done, we were flirting with 100 by the time we were all said and done. The room, the Teddy Fusco room, our main training room, was at capacity for sure. I don't think
the most full it's ever been.
I think so. I don't think I've ever seen more people in there at any given time. And that was a great feeling. Standing room only, for sure. So yeah, we were flirting with 100.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. It's incredible. So the people that were attended or that have attended those first few sessions would have been anyone from a field supervisor to a field level foreman. Did we have like number 2 guys come to that?
We had some number 2s and stuff like that. We extended it out to. The event itself, it really, when we started this out, Mike hit the nail right on the head. It was definitely a napkin idea, right? We were discussing it over breakfast, I believe, in Houston, and we're trying to sort this out. We started through it. We worked through it. We had a rough idea, had a sketch. And then we started to refine it, and it really came together. I would say probably the fastest I've ever seen an event come together. Yeah. I mean, it really started to stick together pretty quickly and got some legs. One of the big focal points for me was the actual origin of DDS and the beginning, the actual story behind it. I'm very much wired in such a way that I want to know where we're coming from to kind of get a better idea of where we're heading, where we're going. And I think that was one of the biggest takeaways for me right off the bat, understanding where we were coming from. I felt like I was getting a lot of that while sitting there, or while actually standing there running the PowerPoint. I mean, it did help. And I think that a lot of others in the group had never heard all of it. So I think it was definitely a value add for them.
Yeah, and part of it too, I guess the overarching concept on where this conversation started on the why was a bit of a reset for everybody, us included, and specific to DDS. We've had a lot of change since 2017, and even a little bit before that. You look at the past 8 years, we've really been in a constant evolution of our existence as a business and our structure as a business on partnerships and mergers and all that good stuff. We joined with Feeney Brothers out of Boston in 2017, and before that, Sean was at the helm. He was the owner, he was the founder, and that's what DDS was. And we've evolved a lot since that time. So I think it was warranted. It was probably a little later than we should have done this. I think now that we did it, we're going to want to continue to do it more often, annually, or even more of a shorter time frame between that. But especially, after the Artera, after us joining the Artera platform in 2022 and us getting through the honeymoon phase, we'll call it, of that, a lot of the unknowns or ideas as we were going through that transition are now set. And we know what to expect and we know where we're headed. So it was important to have everybody in the same room talk about where we've been, how we got to where we're at, and where we're headed. And I think to hear that and to understand it from the top leadership all the way down to a laborer, with a shovel in his hands every day is something that you can't do without having everyone in a room eye to eye talking the same language.
Yeah, totally agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mike, going high level, visionary standpoint, looking back at the event, hindsight's always 2020, but what were some of the things or the thing that you would have hoped to get out of that event? If there was any one thing that you could pull out of it, what would that one thing be?
Mm-hmm. I think for me, one of the most important things is how we can better utilize the experience that we have in the workforce to play a bigger role in the development of our new guys. I mean, our workforce, if you look across the spectrum of new to experienced, is relatively young. We have a lot of new guys in the door, a lot of new girls in the door, and we have a lot of experienced folks that are 5 to 7 years away from retirement that have been doing this for 15, 20 years. And how we extract all that knowledge, all that experience, and pass it on before the time comes that they're in the home stretch across the finish line is something that we need to do. Otherwise, we're doing a disservice to those folks on not leaving a legacy, and we're doing a disservice to the new employees on not having a proper onboard into the industry from a skill set standpoint. So, one of the things that resonated with me through that time is we've always had really great success with folks from the farm. Mm-hmm. And it's a real simple saying, but it's stuck with me. We are the farm right now. There's not a very heavy influx of folks coming from farms into construction. And the folks that do and that did have a skill set that is natural to them because they've been raised that way since they were 8 years old, baling hay, right? Working with grandpa or working with dad. And we're not getting that anymore. So we either need to be the farm and create those folks and start to build those skills from the ground up, or it's going to be a much steeper path to growth, and it's going to take us much longer to get to where we need to be.
Yeah. Well said. I would say to kind of build on that, for me, like one of the biggest takeaways, and again, I was in the seats of everyone else out there, so I got to experience it. But one of the biggest things or impacts that entire summit had on me personally was the alignment of our core values. Casting that vision and getting everybody on the same page with what we're doing and where we're going, and kind of shedding light on the practicality side of our operations and bringing that full circle with our core values. And to me, that hit home.
Yeah.
And that was probably like one of the biggest takeaways for me. And I know that from a lot of the guys that I talk to out there in the field, we have these core values on our gear, on our hats, and we have safety, equality, and accountability, right? It's all over our trucks, it's all over our gear, it's on our hard hats. And till you give those words meaning, they're just words. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that leadership summit for me really helped to not only plant those seeds in our guys and our workforce, but to also crystallize and to help bring it home for me and a lot of people. And I thought that was probably the best thing you can do there.
There's a lot of power in the why, of why we do what we do. I mean, everyone gets out of bed for different reasons, and everyone gets paid on Fridays, but there's a heightened sense of fulfillment when you're working towards a common goal and you're on the same mission with your teammates and you're accomplishing that together and winning as a team and missing as a team and getting better as a team. And I think that's something that if you understand it, once you achieve it, you can't buy that. And it's a sense of fulfillment just from a basic human standpoint that is really cool, and it's fun to be a part of.
It is. It definitely is. Mark, what would you say, looking back, and I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Mike, the people that attended that, what would have been your biggest hope for what they took away from that?
A greater sense of alignment and a greater sense of teamwork was kind of the biggest thing for me. The content was great, don't get me wrong. I loved the content. But the fact that we brought people from all different areas together and everybody was talking through, their little part, and none of the parts are little, but their part, that was huge to me. We brought people in for lunch. We had some special guests come down for lunch, and that was great too. People finally were able to put faces with names, shake hands, make connections. That part was priceless.
Yeah.
Not a lot of companies would take the time to develop that kind of program with that kind of emphasis. The investment there was huge, and we all know that.
Time, all the resources that it took to go into it.
Right.
One of the cool things, and a couple people during this event pulled me aside, and I don't think anyone really realized it, but this was totally grassroots. We didn't bring anybody in from the outside. We didn't have a third party facilitate the content or the discussions that we should have. We got in a room together and we made it out of really just ideas, with not a whole lot of time to rehearse and
Make it all happen.
But that's fine, because that's who we are. That's just who we are. But a few of the guys pulled me aside and they said, what's astonishing is there's 6 teammates up there that are all part of the senior leadership that were presenting. The senior leadership hosted the event, we'll call it. It's astonishing how well everybody gets along. And there was some ball busting. There was some jokes, there was some serious times, but there was some ball busting. But we're all on the same page about a lot of different things, about the business, but about some personal things too, and personal characteristics and moral values and traits and family and all the things that are really important in life. And that wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't fake. It's just who we are as a team. But it was really cool to hear from people that are watching that happen real time that say, hey, I've been at companies before where 2 people can't even get along, and there's 6 of you, and everybody gets along even better. So I think it was just cool to have the team be the men and women behind the curtain that made this thing and kind of show everybody who we all are without actually showing them who we are intentionally.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. It really was. Like I said, I was in the seats there and participating, as one of the guys sort of say out in the field, and it was well put together. For the people that are listening, and obviously we've got, all types of people that might be listening in on this podcast episode here, but for the folks that were not there, or maybe folks that may be looking to come next year, for the young up and comers out there in the world, Mark, maybe you can kind of outline, just paint the picture, maybe for the people that are listening. What is that event? Maybe you can get a little bit more granular on what that actually looked like, and just kind of paint that picture for them.
Well, sure. The event itself, we talked through, and really, when Mike talks about us meeting and putting our heads together and actually hammering this thing out, it really was very much that. I don't know. We were on I think every other day schedule there for a little while as we were trying to wrap this thing out and make sure that we had it just the way we wanted it. The event itself, it happened over the course of 3 days, but it was a half day to begin with, a full day, and then another half day at the end. The half days were classroom intensive. We started out with walking through some basic introductions and history, along with kind of the outline of the company itself and getting into our core values. Day 2, the full day, a lot of that was spent just basically moving from place to place, so that somebody that was in Gas D can definitely go out and take a look. They were able to sit with some folks from telecom and some folks from civil and get a glimpse into their world. And it was very much to build some understanding amongst the different areas of the business.
I would say that day 2, by the way, not to interrupt you there, Mark, but so day 2 was eye-opening, right? So I work in my little bubble. DDS is a large company at the end of the day. There's a lot of people that work in this organization. And for me, again, I live in my own bubble of the utility world, and I work out of a satellite office out in Cortland. But at the end of the day, we're running a large organization. I mean, even my organization itself is large. And you think about the company and all that we do,
and how much bigger it really is,
and how much bigger
right?
that it really is. I mean, for me, that was probably like one of the most impressive things to see when you go through the stations, right? I don't know if that was the technical term.
No,
for
that's
it,
fine.
but-
It was definitely a station.
You go through the stations, and you got to sit with the engineering group and hear their story and hear their teams and what they do. And then you go to the next station, and you get to sit with the leaders in the telecommunications group and what they do, and then energy service. I mean, it was incredible. At the end, you think about all the groups that support this organization, and you just say, wow.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the big things, and I think I probably said this to Mike when we were talking this through, was there's not very many people that get visibility of all those different areas in this business. There's a few of us, there's a few in senior leadership that get that. There's a few of us in training and safety that get to see it, but not everybody. And to give everybody just that little glimpse. And I would be totally remiss if at this point I did not mention that the telecom group that was a huge favorite, and our dear friend Matt Musis, who will show up on another episode, him and his light bending, he has not lived that down yet, by the way. But anyways, that joke aside, that we had a lot of fun with just having small groups mingle with leaders from the other divisions and be able to share back and forth what they do, how it all ties together. Engineering was able to tie together a lot of the pieces, and that was really exciting for some of the folks out there. Even, my group did a presentation on, with HR on the recruitment piece as well as the onboarding and training piece. That really brought up a lot of great discussion, some great suggestions, and it really opened a lot of eyes to what was going on there behind the scenes. So it served as a great conduit to connect a lot of people in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the uniques that I really enjoy about DDS, and I'm fortunate to be involved in all the groups, right? I'm fortunate to have that opportunity to work with the best people in the business here in the markets that we're in that are on our team. And, I started in civil and spent most of my leadership time in gas distribution. But one of the uniques about us is each individual division is best in class within their own market. And you don't normally have that at a company. Normally you have a gas construction group that does natural gas pipe, but also has a small civil division to build pads or build roads or clear right away. Or you have a big civil company that does a little bit of gas on the side to fill gaps when times are slow and commercials in a low spot. Or you have an engineering group that's got one crew that runs around and does integrity work when it makes sense, or stuff like that. With us, each division could stand alone on its own in its own market, and they have all their own customers, they have all their own relationships, they're responsible for their own P&L, they're responsible for their own overhead structure. I mean, each business is truly a business on its own. And the strength that brings to the table when you tie all that together is you have one big strength from all the pistons kind of going up and down at the same time.
Yep.
And it was special to have everybody from each of those divisions be able to rotate through and get a glimpse into that and really realize that the people that are running these groups and are working in the business, not on the business, but in the business, are experts in their own trade. And we're all under one roof. We're all the same three letters on the hat, but we all do different things, and we're seen as best in class within those four walls. No, it was totally eye-opening, I think, for a lot of people. Like I said, I'm fortunate to live it every day, so it's not as surprising to me. But from someone that hasn't seen it before, I remember the first time I really realized how strong we are in those realms, and it's important to realize that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I feel that it was eye-opening for a lot of the folks. That day definitely was far and above the favorite of everybody. They really enjoyed having that visibility. That was a lot of the positive feedback that I had received was surrounding that concept and having that ability.
Yeah, well, and the leaders too. got to learn about folks that they don't necessarily know or they haven't had a chance to really speak with before in length. And like Justin Cirkwa, for example, learned about 10 new acronyms that day, just hearing John Kupiak give the same presentation 8 times, right? And it was a totally special thing that when we put it together, didn't really realize what we were embarking into, but it worked out in the end.
It did.
To be very positive.
It did work out really positive. So
Justin's still learning acronyms.
yeah,
Hey, you can't pick
get
on
him
too
there.
bad.
We'll get him there.
Yeah, we'll get him on the podcast. And
That's right. We'll
see if we
straighten
can
him out
recount
here.
them.
Yeah.
So, Mike, I do have a question. When it comes to leadership, especially as it pertains to DDS, what are some things, I guess, that stand out to you the most that make DDS different?
To me, it's about everything that surrounds the work and how truly horizontal and close to the work that we are. If you look at our management structure for the volume that we do and the amount of work that goes on, we don't have a lot of fat at the top or in the middle. And by fat, I mean there's not a lot of overhead, which means that there's not a lot of red tape, which means that we can make decisions quickly.
Yep.
And, those are the business reasons why it makes us nimble and able to capitalize on opportunities. But I think there's a sense of importance that comes with not having a lot of folks that are far away from the work. And there's a saying out there that when you get too big and too top heavy, that the folks with all the authority have no information and the people with all the information have no authority. And we're very aware as we're in our growth journey, because we are growing and we will grow, to never become that. Because at the end of the day, the money's made out in the field. That's just the truth.
Yep.
There's decisions we can make here in the office. There's projects we can bid and be strategic on relationships and margins and bidding and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, the guys out in the field, the girls out in the field are making us the money. They're paying the salaries for all the folks that are here to support them. And one of the reasons why we didn't implement a work from home policy through an example like COVID is we go back to really simple concepts when it's time to make decisions like that affect the business and can affect people. We really go back to things that are simple. In very simple terms, nobody out in the field has an option to go work from home. So why would somebody in an office that's here to support those people have an option to work from home?
Yep.
And, again, that sounds simple, to sit here and say in a room, but that's a decision that was reasonable and fair across the board to who we are as a culture and as a company. And I think it's important that we never forget that.
Yeah. So I'm going to echo what you said about that local leadership and that, being close to the work, being in the operations side myself and working every single day with, the foremen and the field supervisors. And there's a word that's coming to mind right now, and it's ownership. I would say what makes us stand out is every one of us takes ownership of our little piece of the pie. The guys in the field, they take ownership of their job sites. They're living every day by the core values of the company, and our field supervisors are out there backing them up one step further, and everyone's taking ownership of their piece. And when you look at that and you look at all the red tape that you had said is non-existent, it's true. I mean, we have the authority to make decisions out there as long as we're making those decisions with those core values, top of mind. We're making those decisions and we're solving problems, and that goes all the way down the line.
Yeah.
What I would say one of our biggest strengths is we take ownership of our piece of the pie.
Yeah, that's such a powerful thing, and I think ownership sometimes is confused with things that some folks are asked to do because the company wants them to do it, right? And I think there's another sense of ownership within yourself that you can start to build discipline within yourself and character within yourself and the right moral values within yourself that you do for you,
Yeah.
And I'll give another simple example. When you go into a bathroom, right, whether it's a bathroom in a public building somewhere or a bathroom at the place you work or a bathroom at home, if there's a piece of paper towel on the bathroom or there's water all over the sink and you walk in there and you just walk by it, Well, you just depleted a little bit of your standard, right? For yourself, not for anybody else. I can tell you, when you go into a bathroom and you clean it up, whether it's your mess or somebody else's mess, and you leave it in a better condition than the way you found it. Now, bathroom's dirty, right? So it's somewhat of a uncomfortable thing to have to clean up somebody else's mess. You start to build little building blocks of character within yourself. And when you do that in the opposite way, and maybe you're the person that left the mess for somebody else to clean up, well, now you're going the wrong way. Now you're depleting those building blocks that can be built up over time. And I think one thing that's important here is you can extrapolate that concept into all the tasks that you do every day on a daily basis.
Every day.
Down to sweeping the road.
Yep, every day.
And I think it's important to always realize that perception is reality to some extent. And especially out there on the field and the crew, the truck and the job site and the area inside the cones, that's the office. That's these guys' home for the day. Yep. And it's important that is kept up and kept in a way that's safe and has a standard of quality, so they can set themselves up for success when there is a challenge that presents itself, to not have one more thing to go figure out. So that all ties back to ownership. How do you own how do you own your own space, and how do you do it for yourself, not for anybody else?
Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with Mike, especially with, the trucks and that sort of thing. I sometimes people look at me a little funny when I'm like, yeah, no, I got to go wash the truck. And they're like, what? I'm like, well, yeah, it's a reflection, right? You have a standard. You want to take care of things. That's your standard. No different than any other piece of equipment or anything else that's within your world. And owning the job is a huge piece of that.
I would say where it starts to get fun is where it starts to get interesting is that attitude, that culture. It's contagious. It starts to affect not only the job, but then it starts to affect maybe you start to go home and you start to act a little bit different. Maybe you start to help around the house a little bit more, or it starts to change who you are as a person and that impact that you can have on your teammates and bringing that home. I mean, it's incredible that it's contagious, and it can spread within the company itself, but then it can spread in the home life. It's a great thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And, to take this one step further, I would say since I've been here, we can all look back and track, personal growth and stuff like that, right? We can look at a snapshot in time and say, okay, yeah, I'm a totally different person than I was then. I think that it's very easy for me to see the difference now of where I am now versus where I was when I walked in the door. It's interesting because it has a lot to do with your culture, your workplace that you're around, and what you're seeing modeled, especially from the senior leadership side. Not witnessing, the bickering and the arguing and all that other stuff. It's definitely a huge boost, and that makes the work environment a lot more comfortable.
When you start to really pay attention to the small things and make sure you do all the small things right, you're almost innocently changing yourself in a way that you don't even realize to be better. And eventually, like you said, Jordan, when it gets fun is when you start to change who you are and you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
But you look back at the past 6 months or the past year or even the past month, and it's like, man, how did I get here? In a good way, in a good way.
Yep.
And it starts with doing the small things right. And eventually you do 100 small things right. Well, now you got one big thing behind you. And then you start to trend together doing a bunch of big things right. And then it starts to get fun. Then you're changing your life. You're changing your family's life. You're changing everybody around you that see that through a contagious way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As I look back at the Leadership Summit, as much as it was a learning experience for the people that sat through it and actually got to attend it, one of the best things that I saw come out of it was never a pointing game or anything like that. It was always a two-way channel. It was always a two-way form of communications. Hey, listen, we're not perfect and we know it, and we're here to make it better.
Yeah.
There was a sense of reflection there where basically you were allowing people to ask those questions and face those hard questions. So to me, it was great to see that. I think everybody appreciated the leadership team being open and vulnerable about certain things and just opening the floor to the guys.
Yeah, I think it was clear that we didn't pull everybody together to give direction.
Right.
On, hey, this is what you're going to do and this is how you're going to do it. It was more of a, hey guys, give us some feedback on how we can better support you guys and girls and how we can better support the business. And here's where we want to go. Here's the benchmark that we have set for 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, and how are we all going to get there together? You tell us, you're seeing it, you're living it every day. And if there's one group of people that are really going to get us there, it's everybody in the room. It was all 100 people that we had in the room. There's no other way to do it. There's no other way that I think anybody in that room would rather do it than as a team, all on the same page, marching the same direction.
Right. We should probably start to close this thing out. Yeah, we're running long here, but
we tend to do that.
Yeah. Well, it's easy. I mean, when you're talking about things that you're passionate about and the business that you're in, we're all very passionate about what we do. And
we are.
And we work hard, and these conversations here is what makes us better. Mm-hmm. We could talk.
I think before we close, though, it's important. We've been talking about everything in the past and the event that we did 3 months ago. Now it feels like it was a year ago, and I've been anxious to get back at it with the same group and revisit some of the action items we left with. But some of the important things that stuck with us, we have made some impacts with in a pretty short period of time. We're going to discuss that with a more individual group at a later time, but fleet was a big one for us. We added some new teammates. We changed some systems. We gave our shop more visibility to equipment condition and overall preventative maintenance schedules. And I feel like that was a pretty big talking point and a pretty big action item for us. So I was happy that we were able to implement something in such a short period of time, and we're not done yet. We're far from done yet. We're just getting started. But it's important when you have those events that it's not just that day or those 3 days and then everyone goes back to work. Like you have to leave with something and you have to take action on it and you have to continually revisit that and refine and refresh. So this is something that we've been talking about as a past event, but really the idea is how do we keep looking forward and how do we continue the momentum with that same group of people, because things are going to change. The direction's going to change maybe, and where we need to head. There's going to be certain things that are in our way tomorrow that weren't in our way yesterday, and we need to address those as a group. That's just the nature of the industry that we're in. Look at something like OQs and the amount of change that we've seen with that the past 6 months, or labor laws, that kind of stuff. So there's always curveballs that get thrown our way, and one of the reasons we're successful as a business is our ability to pull everybody in the same direction and then start marching that way as a team. So more to come on the future. Excited to have the stage set, to have everybody part of the team have somewhat of an open line of communication all the way up and down the chain of command on which direction we're going.
Yeah. Mark, I would say there was some excellent feedback that came out of that event, but there was also some great ideas that came out of that event. You live and breathe the training and development side of our business, and I'm one of those guys that's always bugging you for more training because, I live in a world where training
OQs are a little important to you.
OQs are just a little bit important. Outside of training on OQs, there was an idea that was talked about and it might have been my session actually. We talk about the talent that's in this company. Mm-hmm. I work with guys that have been in this business longer than I've been alive, and that's just the truth. We have just an extraordinary amount of talent and experience, and you look at that knowledge and you say, how can you pass that on to the next generation? And I think one of the best ideas that came out of this whole thing was passing that baton and investing in our people, rolling out something like a foreman apprentice program. We've started to take steps towards that, at least in my operation. I've had several foremen that have moved into more of a mentor role, and we're investing in our number 2 guys and saying, okay, you're next in line.
Right. So part of that, and this kind of segues into something else that we definitely took away from the Leadership Summit. Part of that is trying to put some tools out there to support that effort. Being able to utilize those foremen and being able to have them pass on their knowledge is huge. In the day-to-day, that really is huge. And having the mentor right there on site is second to none.
Yep.
That amount of of contact and knowledge and exposure that goes a million miles. Being able to put extra tools at their disposal as well. We've recently rolled out BuildWit training to some of our early adopters, I would say. Really, the content inside BuildWit training, some of that stuff is definitely geared towards that leadership development. And it's really exciting, and honestly, I've been going in there and going through that content. I've got mine set up for one a day, and I'll do my one a day.
So Mark,
when I get in.
If you don't mind, give the audience a glimpse into the BuildWit training idea, why it exists, why we selected that tool.
The BuildWit training piece is really very customizable, and the content, of course, is second to none. They've really drawn together a lot of the pieces in the dirt world, and that has definitely helped. Leadership-wise, being able to have leadership lessons from folks like Jay Collop and Jocko Willink and the entire team from Echelon Front, as well as Aaron and his staff also out there and putting their pieces in there. That piece alone has been huge in order to just get that information out there. And it's small, bite-sized chunks. Stuff that's simple, 3 to 5 minute concepts, that's quick, that daily dose, one video, 3 to 5 minutes. There's a lot of folks out there that spend way more than that on their phone looking at videos of cats or cows or whatever, whatever they happen to be into. Maybe it's barbecue, maybe it's, hunting. Who knows?
Who's looking at cats? You, Jordan? Jordan, you looking at cats?
That's Jordan. Yeah, I know.
Jordan's got kittens in his YouTube search history.
Something going on there for sure. But no, it's a small, manageable piece, and it's not that much of an ad for those guys. Those guys are engaged all summer long. Yeah. They're busy. We know that schedule is huge, so it's definitely a nice bolt-on.
Yeah. What really resonates with me is with what we do and the complexity of all the tasks at hand. Not just the technical, skilled tasks, but the human traits you need as well.
Yep.
To have somewhat of a compass in the form of virtual micro trainings that's at your disposal when you need it, wherever you need it, is something really, really important to have. And I think of YouTube, right? Mm-hmm. When you don't know how to do something, what's the first thing you do? You pick up your phone, you go to YouTube, you search it, and you look and you watch it, happen, and then you learn from that video. And if you don't like that one, you find a new one, right? Yep. And the idea of this started around, how do we give our workforce a YouTube library full of all of the trainings that they may or may not need for what they're going to encounter on a daily basis. Yep. Whether that's general traffic control, concepts on how you set up an MPOT plan correctly, depending on the road you're on, or whether that's how do you manage somebody through a tough time that they're going through? What signs do you look for emotional distress or that kind of stuff? I'm really excited to see where that's going to go, because we have the ability to use the canned content that comes with the platform, the Jocko Willink stuff, the First Form stuff for health and wellness, the general civil operator, laborer, foreman, canned content, which BuildWit has done a great job to develop, but it's not DDS culture specific. And we have an opportunity within the platform to create DDS specific trainings on all of the things specific to this place and how we do our job. So I'm excited to develop that content and provide it to folks as a supplemental learning tool to be able to have as for use as they see fit, whether that's at night when they're home after dinner, or whether it's first thing in the morning when they're going through a toolbox talk.
Right.
It's going to be beneficial, I think, in ways that we don't even know about.
Yeah, when I hear about that content platform, I think about it's us meeting our people where they're at. Mm-hmm. You're talking about a younger generation of people that are coming in. They're already watching those videos, to your point, Mike. They're already on YouTube looking for that content. And by us giving them that as a tool, and it just speaks to, the leadership team, the management team, that they're up with the times and they know how to meet that demand. And it's just awesome to see.
The other thing too is, especially here, you're going to get what you put in. Yep. The ceiling is non-existent for how high you want to go, but you got to put the work in. And sometimes that's going to take off hours dedication.
Yep.
So I think this tool will also give those folks that are willing to put the work in and are passionate about growth, both professionally and personally, they now have an avenue to go do that. I think that's a unique vehicle for delivery that we didn't have before that we're going to have today.
That's awesome. Well, I am very excited for the future. I guess I'll just point blank ask you guys, are we going to run another leadership summit?
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Come on. Yes.
No doubt.
Awesome.
No doubt.
Well-
I'll drop it on Mark 2 weeks before we're ready, kind of like we did this last year, and then I'll see him get red in the face and stare at me in an awkward way, and then we'll roll it.
And then, yeah, I'll just kind of return to my office and I'll sort things out, and yeah, we'll make it work. It'll be fine.
Shut the door, kick the chair. We'll figure it out. No, there will be another summit next year. Next year, looking forward to more people in the room. We might need a bigger room.
Yeah, next year we definitely will need a bigger room. I'll call that right now. We will definitely need a bigger room.
Need a bigger boat.
It's, yeah, for sure. But again, thinking forward to next year, I'm excited to bring Summit 2.0 to life. I think that we have some legs now with the Summit concept, and I feel like we have some things to definitely report out, which, we're already starting to talk about those things that we're reporting out, whether it be Build Wit training. Eric Trulson joined us with Smart Dollar and some other pieces that go along with this. Just think forward to what we'll have on our docket.
Oh, yeah.
by the time we do this thing again.
And it's really around continuous improvement. We're always going to have a summit because we can always get better. No matter how good we are, we can always get better. And that needs to start with feedback from the folks that are out there doing it.
Yep.
It needs to. So that forum is always going to be there, and those lines of communication are always going to be open, and we're always going to take that feedback seriously.
Awesome. Well, I think that wraps us up. I just want to say thank you both, and thanks everybody for listening to the Built-In Boots podcast, powered by the DDS Companies. Check us out online at the ddscompanies.com, and we're hiring, guys.
Oh, we're hiring.
Oh, yeah.
Check us out online, ddscompanies.com. Like I said, Built-In Boots podcast is going to be rolling out on social media, on all the platforms.
We're hiring, and we are the farm.
All right, guys. Thanks again.
All right. Thanks.
Appreciate everybody. We'll see ya.